Dr. Sheikh, what is the extent of climate change happening in South Asia, and how is the region faring in combating it?
Climate change is the serious most threat to our civilization. It's an existential threat. It will influence us in many, many ways. I just want to draw your attention to only one or two things. One is that we are sons and daughters of monsoon. Monsoon will begin to change its pattern. In fact, we see it's already happening. Now, essentially it means water supply will become unpredictable. The scenarios that I've seen suggest there'll be rain before the monsoon period or after the monsoon period. That means monsoon will change its time. Second I've seen is there'll be torrential rains, heavy downpour in a small period of time, which would essentially mean that flash floods, greater disaster or damage. Third impact of monsoon's pattern change could be that monsoon begins to visit other areas where it does not go traditionally. And there the infrastructure and the people and the culture and the species may not be used to that. Now, out of these monsoon changes, several other things begin to happen. For example, we know India and Bangladesh and Pakistan have a huge coastline. Because of seawater rise, we'll have vulnerable coastline, not only losing our space to the sea, the coastline to the sea, but also making our communities more and more vulnerable to raising and gathering storms. Then on the other end, we have glaciers that bind us together. They are already known as the third pole, but we know that they are receding. We don't know exactly how long it will take them to recede them fully. And most countries in South Asia, particularly Pakistan, I know for sure, depend for more than 60 or 70% of their water on glaciers.
Tell us, to what extent are the South Asian countries prepared in case a disaster strikes?
I see that the preparations have just begun to happen, and we have a very long way to go. To begin with, South Asia hosts almost 1 billion people below the poverty line, between all countries put together. This is a very large number, and poorer people are more and more vulnerable. To begin with, we have a lot of work to do. Then we have several fragile ecosystems. We don't have policies in place for them. And a lot of work needs to be done, and I think there are 3 areas I want to point out. One area is at the SAARC level, where we have South Asian collaborative framework. That is where we need to do a lot of work. Enough work has not happened. Climate change is a transboundary issue. No work has happened between India and Pakistan, 2 very large countries of South Asia. Then at the global level in climate negotiations, we have not synchronized our positions. In fact, we have not even started exchanging our views with each other. So both India and Pakistan, even though they are in the group of 77 plus China, but we have started taking somewhat divergent opinions. So there is a space for us to work together and have a shared vision about the future of South Asia, and we need to have shared policies and frameworks to work on those.
Can you also please share with us the work that CDKN is doing in India, and do tell us about some of the initiatives that you have here?
Now, India is a very large country. It's a growing economy. It's one of the fastest growing economy, and it's very largely, hugely dependent on fossil fuel for its growth. And fossil fuel consumption in India is not always the most efficient in the world. So we also can see the projection that in future, India's per capita emissions will also increase. So there are several areas where the work needs to happen. One is India is one of those very few countries, and we need to congratulate people of India and the government of India for this. You have state level action plans on climate change. Most countries in the world still don't have those. But these action plans, while they are in the process of formal approval, need to be also implemented, and implementation mechanisms need to be put in place. So CDKN is working hopefully at some states level to see how best these state level action plans of action can be implemented. In some instances, we are looking at how gender sensitive they are. In some areas, we are looking whether or not they are sensitive to housing for the poor, which are prone to disasters and vulnerability. And then of course we are looking at if vulnerability assessment need to be done and so on and so forth. So it's a fairly broad area, but it falls essentially in strengthening or enabling the state level governments and their partners to strengthen their ability to implement these action plans.
CDKN has been working with TERI for a number of years now, and Dr. Sheikh, you have been personally coming here for the DSDS meets. Now, can you please share your experiences of the evolution of DSDS?
This is a very commendable initiative. In 13 years, it has begun to blossom. It has brought many and many new people and faces on to South Asia to debate. It has also brought many sectors like corporate sector and academia and media and others on the climate change debate in South Asia. However, having said this, this year's conference is extremely impressive. My personal vision is that this Delhi Sustainable Development Summit could also become the South Asian Climate Change Summit also, to see heads of states or heads of government from South Asian countries could also come and see, address as well as listen and learn what is happening. I also see the greater potential from the people, experts and scientific community to come from other South Asian countries. And I also see the potential for this conference to grow, to influence the global climate negotiations. So it is very impressive that so many large number of people from all parts of countries come, and the organizers, particularly Dr. Pachauri and his team, need to be commended for this.
Over the last few years, maybe actually over the last couple of decades, a number of buzzwords have entered into the development debate. You know, we had terms like global warming, climate change, resilient cities. Now we talk about energy efficiency, resource efficiency. So tell us, don't you feel that some of these terms, they actually take us away or defocus us from the real problems that we face, particularly in countries like India and Pakistan?
You're absolutely right. Our issues are very stubborn. They're very persistent. They have not disappeared. And we need to work a lot harder, and we do not need to be distracted by new terminologies. The question being very simple, that a large number of people in India and Pakistan and broadly in South Asia are below the poverty line. They are at the subsistence level, and life is becoming harder and harder for them. And climate change has in effect made it worse. So what I want to say is that we call it green growth, we call it low carbon growth, we call it whatever you wish to please. Essentially these are the issues, and these are the issues dealing at the heart of it is the issue of inclusion. Whether or not we are able to reach out to these millions and millions of people who are below the poverty line, who live on fragile ecosystems, who are very marginalized the economic or democratic processes, and have very few or shrinking livelihood opportunities. Yes, at the same time, since the global debate moves on, we also have to stay abreast with what's happening in the world.
Dr. Sheikh, thank you very much. It has been really nice speaking to you.
Pleasure, sir. My pleasure.